Hello everyone. We are going to start with the new chapter from the Pharmaceutical Organic Chemistry 2. The chapter is benzene and its derivatives. All of us are familiar with the structure of benzene. All of us are familiar with the structure of benzene along with the molecular formula. The molecular formula is C6H6 and this represents the benzene structure with alternate, single and double bond between carbon and carbon. So every carbon is attached with the one hydrogen atom each. We can see here the structure, what we usually draw. Here only carbons are indicated along with the hydrogen and single and double bonds. This structure is usually drawn for different reactions and for representation of the benzene structure. This is called as resonance hybrid, where we are drawing a dotted line in the cyclic structure of benzene. From this chapter, we will focus on the first point, that is, what are the different analytical, synthetic and other evidences in the derivation of structure of benzene. So we'll move on to first evidence, that is analytical evidence, where from this analytical evidence, molecular formula of benzene was derived. The elemental analysis and molecular weight determination helped to derive the formula of benzene. So it was found that the benzene had the molecular formula C6H6 using these two methods. This formula indicated that benzene was highly unsaturated compound. When they compared it with the N-hexane molecule having molecular formula C6H14. The next evidence is synthetic evidence. The synthetic evidence indicates straight chain structure of the benzene was not possible with the help of formula as C6H6. So benzene could be constructed as a straight chain or ring compound having double C double bond C and or triple bonds. But benzene did not behave like alkenes or alkynes. Benzene also has the double bonds. Alkene and alkynes are also having double and triple bonds. But the characteristics of benzene and alkene and alkyne are different. So the chemical properties and chemical reactions compared of the benzene along with alkenes and alkynes, it was found that benzene did not decolorize bromine in carbon tetrachloride or cold aqueous potassium permanganate. Also, it did not add water in the presence of acids. So we can see these reactions, benzene along with bromine in presence of carbon tetrachloride, it gave no reaction. Also, benzene with dilute cold KMnO4 gave no reaction, and it did not add water in presence of acids. So water in presence of H+, there was no reaction found out. So there are also different evidences. Next, we can focus on the structure of benzene. So these are different evidences for the derivation of structure of benzene. So we had seen analytical and synthetic evidence. This structure of a benzene or the Kekel structure, it is part of the some different evidences. The Kekel structure of benzene consists of alternate, single and double carbon to carbon bonds. So the Kekel derived the structure. According to him, the benzene structure is like this, where there are alternate, single and double bonds in the C6H6 formula. Now these two are the two different representations of the resonance structures of the benzene. So these two are termed as resonance structures. which are represented by alternate single and double bond. Here you can see, here there is a double bond, here it is a single bond, but in the second structure you can see here it's a single bond and here it's a double bond. So it's an alternate single double bond between these two resonating structures. Next, we can see these same structure with the help of representation of carbon, hydrogen and single and double bonds. So these are two representations containing carbon, hydrogen and single double bonds. Now different characteristics of the benzene, what Keckles have drawn, they are all carbon to carbon bonds would be different length and strength. Second evidence what he have drawn was the enthalpy of hydrogenation of benzene would be minus 320 kJ per mole. Third, benzene would undergo addition reactions. And fourth, two possible isomers produced in 1,2-disubstituted benzene compounds. So we will see all these four different points one by one. So we'll move on to next point, that is all carbon to carbon bonds would be different length and strength. The carbon to carbon bonds in benzene are of equal length and equal strength. This is one part of the physical evidence where you can see the length and strength of the carbon to carbon bonds. Now here we could see a chart which shows bond, bond length and bond strength. So here we have compared the bond length and bond strength of carbon to carbon single bond, carbon to carbon double bond in normal alkenes and carbon to carbon double bonds in benzene. So from these figures, we could figure out that benzene contains bond length of 140 while carbon to carbon single bond is having bond length 154. So bond length of the carbon to carbon double bonds in benzene is greater than carbon to carbon double bond in alkenes and it is lower than carbon to carbon single bond from alkanes. From this, we can conclude that the carbon to carbon bonds in benzene are of equal length. They are not of different lengths. So all the carbon to carbon bonds in the benzene structure, they are of equal length. Next, we will move on to bond strength. From these figures, we can say that bond strength of carbon to carbon double bond in the benzene is stronger than carbon to carbon single bond and it is much weaker than carbon to carbon double bonds from alkenes. So the major conclusion drawn was the length and strength of the carbon to carbon bonds in benzene are equal and intermediate between carbon to carbon single bond and a carbon to carbon double bond. So the length and strength of the carbon to carbon bonds in benzene, they are of equal value. Second point, we will focus on the enthalpy of hydrogenation of benzene is less than predicted. Now here we could see the reaction of cyclohexene. This is the structure of cyclohexene with H2. So as this is a hydrogenation, it requires a catalyst. So cyclohexene along with the H2 in presence of nickel as a catalyst at high temperature, that is at 180 degrees Celsius and at high pressure, it gives formation of cyclohexane. Now this reaction requires enthalpy which is minus 120 kilojoule per mole. From this, we can predict if we are taking a substrate as benzene, which is having, instead of one, which is having 3 different double bonds with, so for hydrogenation to carry out for 3 different bonds, we will require 3 H2 molecules. So benzene in presence of 3 hydrogen 3H2 in presence of nickel catalyst at high temperature and high pressure will give you cyclohexene. So if you observe, for one H2 molecule, you require minus 120 kilojoule per mole. So it is obvious that for 3 hydrogen molecules, it should require minus 120 into 3. So the predicted value is minus 360 kilojoule per mole. But in actual case, the value it is less than the predicted. So the enthalpy of the reaction for benzene with 3 hydrogens requires minus 210 kilojoule per mole. The difference in energy of these predicted and actual, it is minus 150 kilojoule per mole. This is known as resonance energy. Third point, benzene undergoes substitution reactions rather than addition reaction. Now, in this chapter, we are going to study the electrophilic substitution reactions of benzene. So, usually benzene undergoes substitution reaction rather than addition reaction, because if we perform an addition reaction with the benzene, so the stability of benzene is getting disturbed. The delocalization of electrons of the pi electrons is getting disturbed whenever we add a benzene molecule, whenever we add any electrophile or any nucleophile. So normally substitution takes place because on every carbon atom a single hydrogen atom is present, and if we go for addition reaction, the molecule or the atom will get added to the benzene. But if we go for substitution, the hydrogen atom which is present on every carbon atom is getting substituted with different molecule or with different single atom to get that benzene ring with the substitution of that atom. For example, this benzene, whenever undergoes a substitution reaction with Br2 molecule in presence of AlBr3 or in presence of FeBr3, we get compound as bromobenzene. So hydrogen from this position is getting substituted by the bromine molecule, and that hydrogen, the hydrogen which is present over here, react with the Br and we get a byproduct as HBr. Next, last point, only one isomer exists for 1,2-di substituted compounds such as 1-dibromobenzene. Means if we are substituting two compounds or if we are substituting two molecules of bromine, so if we are reacting bromobenzene with again one molecule of the Br2, we will get 1,2-dibromo or 1,2-di substituted benzene compound. So for formation of this compound, we don't require two different isomers. There is only one isomer which is possible for this 1,2-dibromo substituted compound. Next, we will see the difference between Kekel structure and actual structure of the benzene. So according to Kekel structure, alternating single and double carbon-carbon bonds are present in the benzene, but the actual structure indicates all the carbon-to-carbon bonds are of equal length and equal strength. Second point, enthalpy of hydrogenation is minus 360 kilojoule per mole, but actually, if we could see, enthalpy of hydrogenation is very less than expected, that is, it is minus 210 kilojoule per mole. Third point, benzene undergoes addition reaction according to Kekel structure, but actually benzene undergoes substitution reaction. Fourth point, two isomers exist for 1,2-di substituted benzene compounds, but actually if we see, only one isomer exists for 1,2-di substituted benzene.